after, like it was done. Not too long after I had been up in Utah and actually had that spiritual release from the church leaders. Like within the week, he goes, "Why did you do it so fast?"
He said that?
Yeah, he's like, "I don't understand why you did it so fast. You have a guy on the side waiting."
What was the context? I mean,
he didn't understand why.
That question does not even make sense.
I said, "Really? You think that was really fast?" And no, how insulting.
Hey friends, it's Kody from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It is Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. Meri Brown sat down with some of her friends on the most recent episode of Sister Wives. She, along with her friend Brandy and Jen, dissected and deconstructed Meri's final confrontations and conversations with Kody, along with her relationship with Robyn. Meri Brown's exit from the family was pretty surprising, although not that surprising. Many fans for years had been shaking their heads and quietly pounding their heads into the table, watching Meri hang on to a man that was telling the world, "You need to leave," telling the world, "I don't consider her married to me," and calling her names and accusing her of terrible actions. Kody spent the better part of 10 years smearing Meri and making the wider public believe she was the problem. And Meri was often portrayed as the gullible, vulnerable, and maybe oblivious wife that could possibly be a little bit brainwashed to accept that her legal husband would be allowed to not only have affairs, but also have affairs with women, bring the children, have these women bring children into the family, make Meri help support the illegitimate children he was having, and telling Meri it was her fault if she was angry or upset with his infidelity. In the world of polygamy, upside is down, left is right, and the sky is green. Now, Meri's friend Brandy had a very unique take and something that I wanted to share with you today. Because I've long said that women in polygamy don't really have a choice, and they're often just sort of trapped in fear and trapped in the dogma, and oftentimes more like the property of a man than they are valued as a person. And it was Brandy that very succinctly described Meri's experience.
You were like Stockholm syndrome. You were like fall in love with your captor that won't
Andy doesn't even know who I am. I went to dinner with her a couple times, helped her on her husband move once. Do they know me? Meri doesn't need to trash talk me anymore. She's got her friends doing it for her.
The way that Brandy succinctly described this, and you could tell that she meant it. She wasn't kidding, even though there was maybe some nervous giggles, but it's true. Meri now doesn't agree that it was Stockholm syndrome, but it is a phenomenon. It's a psychological response when someone who is being harmed by someone else develops positive feelings for the person that's hurting them. And this is a coping mechanism for people that can feel trapped in relationships. So it's a psychological response that occurs when a person develops positive feelings towards their captor or their abuser. It's a coping mechanism that can develop in response to captivity, abuse, or relationship stressors. It comes from the 1973 bank robbery in Stockholm, Sweden. During the 6-day ordeal, the hostages developed strong emotional bonds with their captors and even defended them after they were released. Symptoms can include feeling attached to the person that's doing it to them, regressing to a childlike state of dependence, selective memory of their positive acts, denying, minimizing, or excusing the abuse, feeling emotionally disconnected, developing sympathy for the captor's goals, refusing to cooperate with authorities, and believing in the captor's humanity. It's considered a coping mechanism, not a mental health diagnosis. And this is all from Google. In order for Kody to keep these women in a state of complete disconnection from their feelings, he was playing psychological mind games with them. And in order for, I think, the women to likely be able to cope, they had to resort to mechanisms that made them feel like they had some sort of power control, and also to make it seem like the person that they were with wasn't as evil as he was appearing to be. Kody's lack of sympathy, Kody's lack of emotion, Kody's complete indifference and callous behavior towards women, and acting as though he can just discard them and trash them and treat them however he wants with no regard for their feelings, and then not being held up for any level of responsibility for his actions is exactly what an abusive person would do. You know, Kody spent a lot of time getting angry at these women for standing up for themselves. And frankly, even in this episode, Meri criticized the way that some of the people in the family were handling their splits. And if I want to be frank here, Mary's not exactly doing this any better than they are, right? She's just she's just venting to her friends the same way that Janelle and Christine vented to each other about their experiences with Kody. Mary's doing this with her friends. No, Meri and Kody did not have a blowout fight on camera, but it sounds like there was a blowout fight that occurred on the phone. And what Brandy's response was in regards to Meri being forced to deal with Kody's backlash and anger when she decided to leave him. Meri said that right after she got the release from the church, within maybe 20 minutes, Kody called her. He was angry. He was yelling. He was confrontational. He wanted to know, did she have another man? Why is she doing this so soon? He was trying to get defensive and place blame and go tit for tat with her. And she said she wouldn't respond to it. She wasn't going to do it. And he was raising his voice and he was angry. And he was trying to like bring her back into the game, because if he can get her engaged in the game, he has her engaged, right? And Meri was calm and cool and said she wasn't going to engage in it. And so we can go off of Meri's response and say, I didn't engage with it, but this wasn't filmed. So we really don't know what Meri's actual response was. And if Meri chose not to allow him to speak to her that way, that's fine. But because it didn't happen on camera, we don't know. I think it's kind of unfair for Meri to try to say that Christine and Janelle didn't handle things well. The only one that should be blamed about any of this is Kody. And this is also Meri, who back when Kody was screaming and yelling at Christine about the knife in the kidney, she said that that was justified at the time. Now she's changed her point of view today, but at the time she said that he needed to say those things and it had been on his chest for a very long time. So it was like okay for Kody to scream and yell at Christine, but Christine didn't have a right to defend herself. Janelle stuck up for herself and said, listen, I don't need to be criticized by Meri. I handled it the way I needed to handle it, and I stood up for myself, and I didn't do anything wrong. But Kody got angry at this idea that he's being called a captor, being labeled an abuser. And he gets angry about Brandy having the audacity to point out the obvious, that he abused these women and basically held them captive emotionally and psychologically in a fictitious religion and in an abusive cycle to keep them circling around him to feed his ego, his delusions, and so he could grift and make money off of them. It's sick.
I was the one who was always calling. It wasn't being reciprocated, and I really believe that a relationship has to be reciprocal. Yeah, that was hard. The fact that Robyn didn't come to my mom's funeral and support me in that way at that time was very hurtful to me. But also Kody ended up going too, you know. So the whole thing was really confusing to me that she wouldn't go because Janelle went.
And there it is, folks. This was something that's never been discussed on the show. And I knew there was more to the story about why Meri was frustrated with Robyn. She's talked before about how the relationship was never reciprocal, and that this act that was played by Robyn on the show, that they were like best friends and that she wanted Meri to stay and she loved Meri and she couldn't do this family without Meri, didn't match the reality in the family. When they were in Flagstaff, she had no relationship with Meri. She hardly ever saw her. Her kids never saw her, to the extent that Meri and her were getting together basically only for filming. And so Robyn putting on the act and having a meltdown and crying at the Coyote Pass and saying, I wanted to sit on a porch with my sister wives, was all that. It was just an act. Robyn was acting. And this death by Bonnie did happen during the pandemic. It was in the spring of 2021. She passed away. And I would say, sure, you can use COVID as an excuse. A lot of people in COVID were not allowed to go places and didn't go places. simply because they were in a high risk category. My family, we were high risk. We have a son that's high risk, so we didn't go anywhere. Robyn had no excuse, really. Solomon's not high risk. Ariela's not high risk. She's not high risk. None of her kids are high risk. And to add to that, Kody was not quarantining. Kody was going from house to house, bouncing around, seeing everyone, doing whatever he wanted. And during this period, Kody and Robyn were spotted out dancing. They were seen having dinners. They were going shopping. They were constantly out doing things during the pandemic. And then privately, or then publicly on the show saying they couldn't see anyone because of COVID. So Robyn skips a funeral, skips her mom's funeral, Bonnie's funeral, doesn't show up for Meri. After Meri has spent all these years being there for Robyn, supporting Robyn through whatever she was going through, and she's not there for the funeral. And I think it could be adding insult to injury to know that Robyn, who claims to love her the most and have this great relationship, wasn't there, but yet Janelle, who Meri had probably the most tenuous relationship of all the women, was there for her in a moment that the best friend, quote unquote, in the family couldn't be there for her. Robyn's excuse will just prove to you how ridiculous she is.
Kody went because we couldn't both quarantine away from the kids for that long. I didn't have that option. During this time, I was missing all kinds of things. Avalon's birth. My dad was super sick and in the hospital. I wish I could have. I love Bonnie. And I wanted to be supportive to Meri, and I would have been there in a heartbeat if it hadn't have been the situation that we were dealing with Kody.
It's interesting she would bring up the illness of Paul Sullivan, her stepfather, because he was sick. He did pass away, and she was in St. George. In fact, she was seen at Kohl's buying shoes for his funeral. She went to his funeral. She attended his funeral. Kody attended the funeral. So she quarantined for her dad's funeral. Huh, weird. Weird how it's like the rules don't apply. Jen makes a good point here after she says this, that Robyn's whole public image was, I'm always there for Meri. We have each other's backs. I'm always going to do things for you. And that it never actually happened. And I would suspect that for Meri, knowing how close she was to her mom and how much she had done for Robyn, mind you, Meri gave up her marriage for Robyn. Meri was forced to legally divorce Kody so that she could marry Kody so that Kody could adopt the kids. At least that was the story they made on the show. The truth is that Robyn basically threatened to leave him and made him declare his loyalty to her. And then he divorced Meri, married Robyn. So Meri sacrificed so much for this woman. She brought her into the family. She welcomed her with open arms. She gave her all the resources. They paid off Robyn's debt. They worked their asses off to help Robyn's kids get adopted or has a catastrophic loss of her mother. Robyn can't be there. Robyn is all talk, no action. Robyn is the example of what a hypocrite is. And it's all about image for Robyn. She says all of the right things, but it doesn't make sense and it's not true. And it just goes to show you that these relationships that you see on the show are not as they appear. And we have always said, and Christine has said this for a long time, and Meri's friends are finally saying it, is that they don't like how Robyn treated Meri. She hated how Meri's relationship was meddled with by Robyn, that Robyn was using and manipulating and hurting Meri. And Robyn would always be like, that's not true. But everyone appears to have the exact same opinion of Robyn.
Like knowing every single thing I know, I think Robyn did. I think there was lots of things
for the downfall of the family.
Yeah, but also the downfall of your own marriage. You have done a really good job of staying out of everyone else's marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone else did a good job of staying out of yours.
I know there was a lot of stuff said about me.
Jen said that there were a lot of people that were at fault when it came to the downfall of the marriage, but there were certain people in particular that played a more significant role into why the family was destroyed. And one person in particular that spent a lot of time meddling in Meri's relationship and manipulating Kody about a relationship so that they could get what they needed. Robyn Brown didn't like Meri, never liked Meri. Don't you remember I did a video a few weeks ago where I told you that one of her friends said that Meri was a bitch and everyone hated her and she didn't want to have another baby. Like there were text messages between Robyn and a friend saying that Meri was too much of a bitch to want more kids and that she couldn't stand Meri. And then she's vying for Meri's spot in the family during the same period. And she wants Meri's position. And so she gets Meri's position and she wants Meri out because she doesn't want Meri to have any control. She doesn't want to have to bow down to Meri. And she got what she wanted. She got her way. And I'm sure Kody and Robyn loved each other, and Meri and Kody's relationship was a mess at that time. But it was Robyn who said she could speak Kody. It was Robyn that admitted that she would interfere and interject and counsel her friend, the family members through their relationships. And I've always said that this was never altruistic for her. She wanted information, and a way to claim to get information is by saying that you can help mediate situations because it gives you an inside access to a relationship that is none of your business. It doesn't help that on the show they all know what's going on in each other's relationships and we see the drama play out, which gives Robyn even more leverage. But behind the scenes, Kody did favor Robyn, but you also know that Robyn was telling Kody, I'm being mistreated. Meri's such a bully. Christina's so horrible to me. Janelle's the worst. All the time, getting him riled up, all the while feeding his ego by giving him sex and being like, you're the most amazing man ever, you know? And then crying on the show and claiming that she's done everything for this family and is only a giver and always the person that is the most selfless of all of them and the most empathetic. It just, again, goes to show you how manipulated Kody is by her because they also say they showed a clip that wasn't actually on the show of what Kody said about what Kody's and Meri's breakup was and what that did to Robyn.
I'm sorry. I need to move away. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just want to be supportive of you too, but I just need to move away.
I thought it was fair for you and I to have a conversation without Robyn being involved in it.
100%. I agree with you.
Poor girl, that whole talk just wrecked her.
It's like he's completely discounting me. The fact that he and I started this family together.
Kody was more concerned about Robyn and how wrecked Robyn was because of the breakup, because she started melting down and crying about the breakup than he was about how Meri was reacting and came to her and was like, that poor girl, she went through so much. It's just, yeah, way to discount Meri. And one of the friends said, Robyn just needs someone else to come in and start crying and shedding tears and using tears to get to play on Kody's emotions and Kody's feelings, and then see how she likes it when there's another woman weaponizing tears and emotion so that she gets her feelings known by Kody so that he feels sorry for her. She's using and playing on his heartstrings. That breakup had nothing to do with Robyn, and she shouldn't have even been there. But regardless, this was an interesting take. Kody was accused of holding his wives captive, being a complete and colossal jerk, and Robyn's fakery was exposed. What were your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up before you go, and please click that bell so you get notified of any time new content loads. And also, click the subscribe button on your way out. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, everyone.